Whip. We're back with another. Obviously it's snowy out, but today I'm going to spend a little time grinding. As you can see, I've taken off a plate over here. I should have my pointer right now. I haven't quite finished, but this is smooth. And then this one's garbage. So this thing's going to come off. We're just continuing the dirty work. Don't need to make a lot of videos about this because it's boring. I'm going to also cut out some of the stuff back here. Some of those penetrations through that rear firewall so we can get that thing fixed up again. And then today also a little bit more progress on the wing. I'm going to drill the spoiler because I got tracing paper. And I will start to take down that steering column because I think it's about time for some little projects like this so I can get everything bagged up and ready for reassembly and test fit when this thing comes back. I'm almost at a stopping point with this because a lot of the welding and the brazing that I want to do will come out so much better with the paint off it. I don't want to keep continuing to try to patch stuff with paint on here. It just makes a mess. So I have a rebuild kit for this. It's not really a kit, it's just an assortment of various parts that I bought from BMW. It has new bearings. This is a manual steering rack. It was a little tough to find. I'll tear it all down and bead blast this, respray it, take this apart, new seals, the whole works. So this is up soon, probably today, at least the disassembly, as well as the spoiler. Let's get to it. You can see with a little bit of labor and love, gently grinding the welds back slowly, chisel and hammer, we're starting to pry this away, and the idea is to like weaken the weld, not grind all the way through it, weaken it all the way around, grind it way down, and then crack it off, and then grind down what's left of the weld after, so we don't compromise the strut tower. This is a pain. I really hate this stuff, but it's satisfying when you're done. Slowly but surely, this is getting peeled back. I'm just making little slices in the lower weld here with the cutting wheel, so as not to mar the metal underneath. I've smashed my finger about 10 times with the chisel, so it's going smooth. I'm almost there. Almost got this thing off. Going around the bottom, you can see I've cleaned up the welds. I've hit my hand probably no fewer than 10 times already, even with the glove on. So this becomes a spring. The chisel bounces and you miss it. It's awesome. This is the last bit of like extra metal that I have to, I'm not going to grind it because it's in a corner, so I'll just break it off. So this is like roughly where we're at here. Look at this garbage. Didn't even go around the whole tube. Just kind of gave up and blew a bunch of welding wire in there, called it a day. So now I'll start grinding and get all that rest of that crap off, and we're going to stop on the grinding for today. I've had enough. So I finished the grinding. I'm actually pretty happy with this whole thing. I did a better job on this side with a little more experience than I did on that side. But the good news is, I just need to go further on that side. I didn't take off too much. Now, if we get close up here, we can see I did a couple like little bit too deep cuts with the angle grinder, but it's not a big deal because this whole top actually has to get cut off planer because I have this like DTM cap that needs to be welded on that's slotted and has a different opening. So basically this whole top gets cut off anyway. The part I want to maintain is the tower and the upright, and the position will actually never change. The position of this sheet metal will come up on the tower, but the tower stays fixed here. I'll take a close up. So this is just like body sealer that will come out. It's like that goop, but the seam is real pretty, and we got that whole plate off, and we maintain this line without nicking the support at all. I'm quite happy with this. And again, there'll be another plate welded on here. Victor will weld a support plate because we'll have a tube coming from the new cage up here. So this will be not only fixed with a new plate, a new top, refinished, recovered. So we don't have to be absolutely perfect here, but this is so close. I'm real happy. Anyway, next thing. This is pretty gross. I'm trying to take this node out little by little, chopping away, chopping away. We'll get a progress report in a sec. So what did I do today? You should wear these. You have a mask around your house, you should wear it when you're grinding. Probably have tried this before without one, and you get gross boogers, and it means you're inhaling this dust and it's not good for you. Anyhow, here's what I did. I took off this whole node, which was huge. That was a big one. There's another one like that. Grinding is so hard. I'm kind of burnt out on it right now, so I'm going to stop. I'm going to take this guy out. This is going to stay, but I'm going to clean this up. Just take off this fisheye notch so the new cage can pick up on it nicely. I actually do like this piece of the cage. It's well done, so I'm going to leave it. I started to cut those out. I cut this. This is a jack point this guy put in from underneath, and he supported it on the sill. I'm taking the whole thing out. Just put it back to normal. I did the same thing on the other side. Just started cleaning up and grinding around slowly but surely. Front is done. So this is good. This is like a good 2 hours of really gross work. There's still some stuff left. I want to finish that side. continue to cut out these nodes before we go and bring it to Pennsylvania. So I vacuumed, I sprayed it with an air gun to get all the metal chips and the grinder chips out. Now I'm just going to hit the bare metal with primer, just so it sits here and it has primer on it. It doesn't really matter. It's not going to rust in 2 weeks, but it's a ritual. I'm going to do it. So that's it for this phase. Maybe we'll look at the wing next. Moved on to the next phase here. Next piece of this project today. What we have here is the deck lid. We looked at this last time. I just put a blanket out so it doesn't get scratched or anything. Put a piece of wood on it to level it up. This is like what you see your standard M3, E30 M3 wing. I'm calling these different things. I'm calling that the wing. We'll call this like the spoiler element. So the first stage, I think, because I'm like getting warmed up here, this is the easier of the two. I'm going to drill the deck lid to fit the wing. Now we can see this has like small indentations already, and what I've done is I've like averaged everything. They're not perfect, and I expect that there'll be some oversizing of the holes on the deck lid to get it to sit perfectly when I'm done. I could measure this all day and it still might not come out exactly perfect. So what I'll do, another thing, because it was like a curiosity of mine on how this was going to line up underneath. But right here, there is like a flat, so you can put a fender washer here. So it's not like you're drilling through into this layer here, and then you're having like a recessed nut way in there. It does go to a flat for each hole. So that's pretty cool. That was something I wanted to investigate first. So the first step will be to just drill these two. Let's do that now. So I did the initial drill, and I'm not like a skilled fiberglass worker, so I noticed it's chipping the gel coat a little bit no matter what speed you go. I don't care about that too much because this all has to be refinished and refit before it's painted and put on. But what I decided to do is use this little die grinder and just oversize the holes with the die grinder so I don't chip the gel coat anymore, because the holes are close, but I don't want to force the spoiler in. So what I'll do is just oversize them slightly so it'll fall in. Here we go. Now for a test fit, there's fiber everywhere. I want to vacuum this up after. Money. So yeah, you can see pretty well. It looks really good. Let's pull the camera off here. So that's phase one, and we can see underneath the threaded studs go through exactly as we expected. Next step. So I've got this blanket bunched up and it kind of supports everything. The wing element is a little bit narrower than the slot for the wing, so I'm going to ignore that for now. We're going to end up splitting the difference later. What I did was I measured the element itself, like right across the bottom. I'm assuming there's some curvature, which there definitely is, because you can see it departs the element right here. So it's 44 1/8 exactly. So if I snug it up a little bit, just so it intersects, 22 1/16 is my center mark. And I'm going to do this in a couple ways. We're ignoring this thing now. We're just looking at the element. It just happens to be sitting on here. So I'm going to do it the other way. Just try to get a few averages to make sure my center mark is okay. And I don't even know why I need the center mark yet, because I haven't figured out how I'm going to do this. But that's perfect. That's on center. So I'll take the element off and get a center mark on this guy. In the same way, you can see this is curved like this. That was an exaggeration, but this is like 44, 1, 2, 3. It's like 44 3/8. So we're going to divide that. If we say 44 1/2, that's 22 1/4 plus a 16th. So I friggin' hate imperial. Just do millimeters everywhere. So that's my center. We'll go backwards here. sure. That looks good. Now I'll measure across the holes. It's like, no, I'm just getting averages here. I'm not trying to be exact. This is 13 from hole to hole. Like this is roughly my center. So it's looking pretty good. You can measure this in a few different ways. I got this tracing paper. I'm gonna try to tape it up now. We'll see what we can do there. Either my hands are too cold or this doesn't freaking work. It's just like floating everywhere. I don't know. I could tape it up, but then what? I don't know. This is a fail. So you can see the lines. It doesn't really help. Like, even if I feel the hole, but I can't trace it. It just sucks. So, all right, that failed. Different, something else. We need to figure something else out. All right, so here's what I did. Gave up on the tracing paper. I got this thin cardboard. I centered the cardboard on this fold. I measured across several times on my center mark that I made here. I centered this on my center mark. This has a slight curve, so I cut over and over to get this curve pretty straight. I laid this out and I used my thumb to impress some indentations onto the cardboard. And then on this side, it's a little sloppy. I tried to drill through the cardboard on this foam pad and the drill just tore the cardboard. So then I got this little grinder bit. Instead, I poked a small hole with a grinder bit and I made cleaner holes. You'll notice these aren't equidistant from each other, but neither are these. And these also aren't straight. So I'm starting to think like, this is gonna be really hard. You can't map this out perfectly. I don't trust that any of these holes are in perfect alignment. So what I think is gonna happen is we're gonna have just oversized holes in the wing element. And that's okay because these washers and this hardware that this wing comes with account for that. Like you're never gonna get this bolt pattern exactly right with all these surfaces. So you can have a slightly oversized hole and it'll be okay. So with that said, I'm gonna start with the center set on here and then we'll work towards the outer set. I might give up halfway through. Yeah, one other thing I forgot here. I had drilled 3 holes in this cardboard. That's not necessary at all. It really only needs 2, so I started crossing these out. The more I thought about it, if you do 3 holes on 3 holes and you want to move it up, you'll have an extra hole and you don't need that. So just do the bottom 2 and then make sure that's your low position. And then you move the bottom, you leave the bottom empty when you move the element up and you use the top 2. You screw to the top 2. So 2 holes, not 3, don't forget. I have 3 bits here. I'm gonna step up to what hopes to be the final one. I'm also trying to drill like straight through this angle because I know the bolts aren't gonna go like this. You know, they're gonna go in according to the curve of the wing. This is all very wishy-washy, but hopefully it works. So now I've stepped it up to my 3rd bit, which turns out wasn't big enough, but they're lined up and they're good. One mistake I just made, be careful when you're drilling carbon. So when you have dust, don't wipe it with your hand because if there's a splinter, you'll get it in your finger. So just leave it, blow it off and get a little sandpaper. Give it a few rounds with the sandpaper because you don't want carbon splinters. So I'm gonna step this up one more time and then I'll try to get some hardware and we'll see where we're at. So after some adjustment and few step ups in drill size, this is dialed. I'm so happy with it. What I did was I took my little trusty grinding bit and just like smoothed it out after I drilled it, just to take the fibers off the bore. When I was drilling, I found that very, very light pressure and very high speed was sort of the best to avoid splintering. As you can see, there's no splintering, there's no problems here. I currently have it set in the high position. I tried it in the high and low. I still have to do the outer 2. Starting to get chilly down here, so I'm going to do that another time. So let's fit this up and finish this video.